ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यप्रभु स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सादररूपात्मकं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च देवी कृष्णकरुणासिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ताप्तकंचन गौरंगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। I offer my respectful obeisances to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. This is the personality that we are honoring today on her appearance day. So we talked about at the beginning, this day is the most dear for day, the holiday and festival for Vaishnavas. Forget Janmashtami. Forget all other holidays. Today is the most special day. Because Radharani is the most special person. She surpasses everybody. And in some cases, yes, even Krishna himself. And we'll get into that today. So, let us learn about the Queen of Vrindavan. So, Radharani is manifested as the internal potency of the Lord, what is referred to as Ladini Shakti. She is also the only source of enjoyment for Krishna. Nothing else makes Krishna happy except Radharani. Anything that makes Krishna happy is connected to Radharani in some shape or form. And of all the gopis, she is supreme. No one surpasses her. And this loving relationship, this duality, Radha and Krishna, is always manifest. Whenever you see a deity of Krishna, Radha is always present. You will never not see Radha with them. If you think about how they're organized also, there are many different ways that you'll see Krishna in many different forms, but whenever we address the deities of the Radha Krishna deities, whose name always comes first? Radha. Krishna, there are only a couple instances where Krishna's name will come first, but Radha always comes first. Ladies first. Material world, spiritual world, no difference. Radha is the queen, and she has to be respected as such. And it's through her being the actual internal potency of Krishna that all happiness is derived. So, Sunil Prabhu, would you like to read off this verse for us? Do we have the second mic? We might want to get a third mic too as well, so we can split them around.
Hello. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 4.56 राधा कृष्ण एक आत्मा दुई देह धारी अन्यों ने विलासे रस आस्वादन करी. Aswadana. Yeah. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two bodies. Thus, they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love.
So they are one and the same, and yet they are totally different from another. So when they're enjoying each other, kind of think of it. Here, we'll do a little more practical. How many of you have been to a hot spring before? No one's ever been to a hot spring. Okay. Okay, same concept at least, but go to a hot spring. It's natural, it's good for you, the salt is good for your body. But if you go to a hot spring, generally you have the hot water that's bubbling up from the earth. But sometimes there's some places where there's a stream nearby and that hot spring overflows its banks. The hot water will go down and it'll meet with the cold water. And they don't mix right away, but because of the way hot water and cold water react, they'll start swirling around each other and then they become one. So think of the same way that this is Radha and Krishna. Hot water, cold water. They're both water, but they're their own separate entities. But if they combine together, they're one and the same. So that is Radha and Krishna. Now, for those of you who want the more textbook nitty-gritty, who is Radha? Don't worry, I got you covered. Just how everyone has visual learning, audio learning, writing learning, there's some people who want, give me the mathematics, give me the strict verbal definition, I got you covered. So, let's talk about Vedic cosmology in terms of the spiritual world, who is Radha. So, in the spiritual world, obviously we have Krishna. He's the primeval source of everything. His first expansion is Balaram. And then his other expansion, his internal potency, or his Ladini Shakti, is Radha. Now I know for you in the back, can't see, don't worry, got that covered too. Let's zoom in a little bit more, and then we're going to focus primarily on Radha, the Ladini Shakti. So she is there present as one of the primary expansions of Krishna. Krishna is everything. Everything emanates from him, but Krishna also has desires. He has a personal form. He is not just this all-pervasive energy that just wants to exist. He has desires just like you and I have desires. He has things that he likes, things that he wants to enjoy. So he manifests these different potencies so that he can experience all these. Obviously he has Balaram, his brother, who expands to provide any paraphernalia to give to the Lord's desire, but then he also has his opposite half. So if Krishna is the divine masculine, Radha is the divine feminine. One can't exist without the other. If you think about love, it's dual. You can say, I love myself, but people are going to look at you like you're arrogant. When you're talking about loving someone, there's someone else. It's that duality. But here in the material world, duality is terrible. It sucks. Dry season, hurricane season. Go up north, blizzards, and then blistering summers with mosquitoes. Duality in the spiritual world means Radha and Krishna. That balance, that love, that holds not only the spiritual world, but the entire creation, everything that emanates from Krishna together. It's their transcendental love. Now, we're going to get more into the nitty-gritty for those of you who know more. Tell me who Radharani is. I need to have a notebook, jot down like bullet points, dash everything. I got you covered because in the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 14, Srila Prabhupada goes in very fine detail and lists off all these lovely bullet points to describe Radharani. Specifically, there are 25 qualities of Radharani. First, she is sweetness personified. So think of the sweetest thing that you can think of. Milok Jumani, ice cream. Multiply that by infinity. That is Radharani. She is a fresh young girl. She is the epitome of youth. Her eyes are always moving back and forth, side to side. She's not stagnant. She is always brightly smiling. It's described that her face is like a blue lotus, and even then it eclipses the beauty of that lotus. She possesses all auspicious marks on her body. She can agitate Krishna by the aroma of her person. She doesn't even have to be present before Krishna. She can be in an opposite room, and her mind is, or Krishna's mind is already, where's Radha, where's Radha? Think about like when a little child goes into the kitchen and smells cookies baking. Their mind is one track, I want the cookies. That's how Krishna is affected, just by the smell of Radharani. She is expert in the art of singing. She has an extremely melodious and beautiful voice. She speaks very nicely and sweetly. She is expert in presenting feminine attractions. And she is modest and gentle. She is always very merciful. She is transcendently cunning. And we'll touch back on that on a very special pastime in a bit. She knows how to dress nicely. She is always shy. She is always respectful. She is always patient. She is very grave. She is enjoyed by Krishna. She was always situated on the highest devotional platform. Of all the different types of rasas or loves and relationships that you can develop, she is at the highest. She is the pinnacle of devotion to Krishna. She is the abode of love of the residents of Gokula, the residents of Vrindavan. Their love is what Srimati Radharani has. She can give shelter to all kinds of devotees. She is always affectionate to her superiors and inferiors. She is always obliged by the dealings of her associates. She is the greatest among Krishna's girlfriends. And most importantly of all, the last one, she always keeps Krishna under her control. Who's supreme? Who's the supreme personality of Godhead? So yeah, and the scriptures tell us Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. But is he supreme if he can be controlled by Radharani? Well, yes and no, because remember, Radharani is Krishna's internal potency. So by that technicality, yes, Krishna is still the supreme personality of Godhead. But who gives the orders? It's Radharani. Krishna will always say yes. He has no say. If Radharani says so, it is so. So she is supreme. But she is supreme not because she manifests the entire Mahatattva, she manifests the material world, the entire spiritual world, no. She is supreme because of her love for Krishna. It's that sheer, pure love that has completely captivated Krishna to the point where he is always at the limb of her finger. Now, Krishna has multitudes of names. One of them is also very dear to me since I grew up in Maryland, near the Potomac Temple, with the leader Radha Madan Mohan. Does anyone know what Madan Mohan means?
The attractor of Cupids.
The attractor, the bewilderer of Cupid, he who bewilders the mind of Cupid. Who's Cupid?
Love God.
Yeah, the god of love. Many different depictions of Cupid in the Greek and Greco-Roman mythology. Just think of a fat baby in a diaper with wings. But Cupid is the god of love. One shot from Cupid's arrow and you become infatuated. Krishna captivates Cupid. In fact, it says he has the attractiveness of 10,000 Cupids. So that's incredible. You can bewilder the god of love. Radha bewilders the bewilderer of Cupid. So if someone can captivate the attention of Cupid, that is topmost. And then that shows even how much higher Radharani is and how supreme her devotion places her. So, let's do some math.
Yeah.
Engineers? Doctors?
Love math.
Math, everyone should love math. If not, it's okay. Think back, we're not going to get complex, we're not going to go into quadratic formula, Calc 3, don't worry. We're just going to do just some basic addition, multiplication. Standard, 1, 2, 3. Times 108 times 365. We'll get into that. But, what is something that we as devotees do a lot of? Raise your hand. Someone have an idea?
Dancing.
Yes. Mahamantra. That was a good guess, but we don't dance every single moment. I mean, you could try dancing and eating prashadam. That might be a little hard though. But yes, the Maha Mantra, very good. We chant. Devotees constantly chant. But let's actually break this down. So We have the Maha Mantra right up here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 16 words. Of those 16, 8 of them are Radharani's name, Hare. And you got 4 for Krishna, 4 for Rama. So that's 8 names of Radharani per mantra. If you multiply that up to around 108 Mahamantras, that means every time you chant one round of japa, you are chanting the name of Radharani 864 times. Half for Krishna and half for Rama. You want to go even further? For 16 rounds of japa, which is recommended by Srila Prabhupada as the minimum you should chant per day, you're chanting 13,824 names of Radha in more or less a 2-hour session of japa. 16 rounds of the Mahamantra. And if you want to push that further, to really put that into perspective, the year in the life of a devotee, you will chant 5,045,760 names of Radha chanted per year, or 5,045,760 names of Radha per year. That's how many times. Divide that number by half. That's how many times you're chanting Krishna's names and Rama's names. Radharani is priority in the Mahamantra. The math is mathing. You chant her name more than you chant Krishna's name or Ram's name. And there's a very important reason why we chant her name so much. It's because it's what makes Krishna happy. And you look at it, Hare Krishna, Hare, each time, Hare, Hara, you refer to Radharani directly each time. When you refer to Krishna, first you refer to him as the all-attractive Krishna, then you refer to him as the reservoir of all pleasure, as Rama. Hare, you're constantly referring to that internal potency. Remember, the Ladini Shakti. There's a very nice quote that Srila Prabhupada, when he's talking about when we chant the Mahamantra, it's the word Hara is a form of addressing the energy of the Lord. Both Krishna and Rama are forms of addressing directly the Lord, and they mean the highest pleasure, eternal. Hara is the supreme pleasure potency of the Lord. This potency, when addressed as Hare, helps us in reaching the Supreme Lord. You cannot even think about getting close to Krishna, even having him look at you, without addressing Hare, without addressing Radharani. And this is actually a very quote that's taken from a beautiful lecture that Srila Prabhupada gives on the Mahamantra. He further on explains the mood when you chant. And he explains this actually many different times. You want to chant like you are a crying child. Calling out for who?
Your mother.
Your mother. You call for your mother. You don't call for your father. Dad's probably just going to pick you up. Yeah, tough it out. Or just give you a nice pat on the back, or just, oh, here's some candy. Stop crying. The mother, it's that attitude of a mother to console, that caring feeling. It said that in the material world, the closest thing that you can actually think to real love is the love of a mother for her child. That's the closest that you're going to get to pure love in the material world. But it still is nothing compared to pure bhakti, pure love. So when you chant like a child calling for their mother. Who's your mother? Radharani. Hare. She is your mother. Only through the mother do you get the attention of the father. Because the father has to listen to the mother. We've established that. If Radharani is telling Krishna, pay attention, your kid needs you. Okay, I'm sorry. Krishna's off doing his own thing. He's off playing with his friends, he's wrestling with Balaram, he's playing water sports. But when Radha calls him, he's like, oh, I gotta go. I can't miss this. This is like a priority emergency phone call. I have to answer this. If Radha says so, Krishna will do it. So that's why you call to your divine mother, Radharani. And by her mercy, she will get you Krishna. Now, we're going to do a little more trivia. And we're going to dive back into the entire cosmos, the entire creation. What is the most potent place in the universe? Show of hands, anyone want to take a guess? Raise your hand if you have a guess. Yes.
Vrindavan.
Vrindavan. It's a very strong guess. We're going to circle back to that in a moment. Anyone else?
Jagannath Puri.
Jagannath Puri. It's a strong contender. Not bad. Anyone else? The most potent place in the universe. Remember, there's got millions upon millions of planetary systems. 14 different planetary systems in the universe. They're all innumerable planets and galaxies. Any guesses?
Anywhere there's a heart.
Louder?
Anywhere there's a devotee.
Anywhere where there's a devotee. That's a pretty good one. Anyone else? Come on, just
Goloka.
Goloka. Ah, okay.
Krishna's heart.
Krishna's heart. Ooh. That's pretty good. I heard.
Like giving the
Anyone else? These are all good. These are all great.
missed out one Mayapur.
Mayapur, of course. Here's all I know: the eternal Mayapur versus Vrindavan fight, the little transcendental fight.
Orlando.
Orlando. That's another strong contender. So those are all very, very good places. The first guess, however, we said Vrindavan. Somewhere specific in Vrindavan. Vrindavan's a big place. Ashana? Close. Radhakund. Radhakund is the most potent spiritual place in the entire universe. From Patala Loka, the lowest planetary system, all the way up to Brahma Loka, at the topmost of our universe. Through all those millions of hundreds of galaxies, everywhere, the most potent place is on Earth. In Vrindavan, at Radhakund, in the Nectar of Instruction, it's explained, that her kund, or lake, is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis, who then will not reside at Radhakund and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings. Aprakrita bhav. Render loving service to the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, who perform their Astakalya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in this universe. So, don't worry if those of you are not familiar with Radhakund. We're going to give you a nice little crash course. We're literally going to take the bull by the horns, because this pastime involves a bull. So, the pastime and the formation and the significance of Radhakund starts with Krishna killing of the demon, the bull demon. Does anyone know his name? Starts with an A. Arishta Sura, the bull demon. So, Krishna, being Krishna, makes easy work of the demon, slams him down, kills him. Hooray, I have fled the demon. I'm continuing my Leela of annihilating the demoniac entities on the earth. So, he goes to Radha. Now, Radharani, seeing that Krishna has killed Arishta, she says it in a sarcastic, joking way, "You cannot touch me. I'm clean and pure. You just killed a cow." According to Vedic injunctions, that is the most sinful thing you can do. Don't touch me until you get clean. So Krishna says, okay, I'm sorry. Or this is basically the spiritual equivalent of yes, dear. So what Krishna does is he takes the heel of his foot and he stamps it down into the earth. And then he calls forth all of the holy waters across the earth to personify themselves and enter into this depression that he made. All of these holy water bodies manifest themselves right to Krishna. So Krishna is just showing himself off in his full splendor in front of Radharani and all the gopis. Behold, I'm going to clean myself. Krishna is being a very big diva about this. All the gopis are watching as all of these holy waters slowly enter, mix in with the Ganga. And Shamakund forms. And then Krishna takes his bath in all the holy waters of the world. And he comes back to Radha and says, I'm clean. End of story, right? No. So, Radharani was watching this with all of her friends, all the gopis. All the Sakis are standing there watching Krishna. being a little full of himself, but this is that transcendental love, that loving exchange. She and her friends go next to the kund that Krishna created. They take their bangles and their anklets and they start digging. And they've seen basically the beauty of Shamakund, this celestial body of water, the most purest place on earth. And they want to do Krishna one better. So they dig out this kund. And then Krishna is seeing this and he's moved. And he says, let me take the water from Shamakund. Let me command that water to flow into your kund so that you can also have all of these potent waters. Radharani basically tells Krishna, with all the gopis, sarcastically looking and says, no. So she walks to the Ganga, and then with all her friends, one by one, pot by pot, they carry Ganga water and walk all the way to the kund and fill. And they continue back and forth, filling the kund until it rises full. Krishna continues to watch this, and he is captivated. Remember, Radharani always has Krishna's under her control. And then, upon seeing this formation of this beautiful kund, Krishna essentially comes forth and says, I got him before you. This kund will be the most famous place in the world. And if you would be so kind, I would like to have some of my kund water placed in yours. That appeases Radharani, and then some of all the holy waters from Shamakund are allowed to enter into Radhakund. And now you have the most potent place in the entire universe for Radhakund in Vrindavan. But all those other ones that we suggested, those are very top tier. So, you know, if you have a ranking system, you have like F tier, not that great. D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier. All the places you listed, solid A tier. Jagannath Puri, Mayapur, ISKCON Orlando Bhakti House. Solid A tier spiritual places. Wherever a devotee lies. That's definitely very special. But Radhakund is an S tier. It is supreme, above all else. Now, let's actually bring it to ISKCON of Orlando. How do we worship Radharani here?
Mahaprabhu.
Mahaprabhu. We have a form of Radharani here at ISKCON of Orlando in Gaudanataraj. And he's joined by his counterpart, his brother Nitai. So Nitai, Gaudanataraj are how we are able to worship Radharani. And in the age of Kali Yuga, this age of oral and hypocrisy, it's by worshiping Nitai Gauranga that we can actually worship Radha and Krishna. So, let's talk a little bit about Mahaprabhu and how he ties into Srimati Radharani. So, Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. But he is not just Krishna. Anyone else know? Why is he slightly different from just being Krishna himself? Why is he not a direct incarnation? Anyone?
He takes the mood of Radharani and the complexion.
He takes the mood and the complexion. Normally, Krishna, when he manifests, or when you see he's described as Sham, color of a dark rain cloud. Other incarnations, if you think of the color of Ram, it's a dark, vibrant green. Or if you think of Raha, it's a bright red. But Mahaprabhu takes the complexion of Radharani. Remember, she's like molten gold. Now, Mahaprabhu manifested this form because he had a very specific desire. More so also because Radharani is directing Krishna to take compassion upon the fallen souls in Kali Yuga. But also, it's said in the Bhagavad Gita that Vedaham Samatithani, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 26, Krishna says, I know everything. Everything comes from me, so naturally, I know everything. All the Vedas, everything that is knowledge comes from me, and I understand it. There's one thing that he fails to understand, and that is Radharani. specifically the love that Radharani has for him. He can't comprehend it as himself. He can try all he wants, but all he's going to get is a sarcastic no and a cooler, much more potent pond built than the one he created. So he comes down to this material world in her mood so that he can understand this is what she feels when she's thinking of me. This is the sweetest thing on earth. Because remember, Radharani is sweetness personified. Kali Prabhu, would you like to read this verse?
Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikri Aldini Shakti Ashmat Eka Manav Api Hoki Pura Jiha Edam Tatau Tau Chaitanya Kyam Prakam Aduna Tadhavyam Chaityam Aptam Radha Bhava Yuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Sarupam. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's infinite pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment of complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself.
So I'll circle back to that analogy we gave at the beginning. You need to go to a hot spring. That's on your bucket list. And anyone who hasn't been to a hot spring before, by all means, go. Especially if there is a place where there's cold water running by. I'll circle back to that in a second, but first to that analogy. Remember, we have the hot water flowing up from the spring, and it bubbles down the spring, and then it meets a cold flowing river. At first, they'll be separate, but then when they mix together, they become one. This is what Mahaprabhu is. Remember, he's that hot and cold water mixing together. Now, the reason also why I say you should go, athletes do this as well, going between hot water and cold water. It's actually really good for your muscles. So there you go, a little pro tip. When you go to a hot spring, make sure there's cold water. You can go back and forth between the two. Huh? Yeah. Oh, you can go to Yellowstone, but that's a little far. Or if we have springs in Florida, they're always a beautiful 71 degrees. You just find one with a hot tub right next door. You can kind of simulate it. But it's that happy medium. You're mixing her in. You can, a devotee is supposed to see Krishna wherever he goes and everything. So even if you think like you're looking at the sink, hot water, cold water, Radha, Krishna, they come out, Mahaprabhu. They're one and the same, but they're different at the same time. So Mahaprabhu is the glue that brings it all together. That mood, chanting ecstatically. Does anyone want to, off the top of their head, know any of the symptoms exhibited by one who's experiencing pure bhakti or pure love? What are some bodily symptoms that you can list off? Which one?
Hair standing on it.
Hair standing on end. What else? Fainting. Losing consciousness. What else? Tears flowing. So, Mahaprabhu in his Shastra declares, when will tears flow from my eyes like torrents rain, when my hairs on my body stand on end? That level of love that Radharani feels for Krishna. Has anyone ever felt that much affection for someone before? Yeah, it's something that is a supreme level of affection that it's very difficult to even conceive. But that's how potent Radharani's love is for Krishna. You could even think about the thing you love the most in this world. Is it going to get your hairs to go, your spidey senses tingle? That's Radharani. That's what Mahaprabhu was craving so much. It would drive him to the points of fainting multiple times. Or when he's exhibiting his happiness, he would dance out of sheer ecstasy for Krishna. Does anyone know what Mahaprabhu is described as when he dances?
Nataraj?
Huh?
Nataraj?
Nataraj, yes. Quality, like a metaphor. What is he compared to? It's a very, very regal but also kind of lopey at the same time. Mahaprabhu, when he dances, it's described that he's like a drunken lion. So if anyone's seen a lion before, it's, very big, very scary, one of the largest cats on earth. When they move, they leap, large. And then Mahaprabhu himself was very large. He was 7 feet tall. Just think about if you're dancing next to an NBA basketball player. You're going to feel eclipsed by that. But that's what Mahaprabhu, now imagine his dancing. And then also he moved like a firebrand. So when he would spin, it looked like, think like a tornado. So we get tornadoes here in Florida or out west. Now think of that, but it's wearing like beautiful golden robes and the shining, shimmering skin like molten gold, and that's spinning around, dancing, jumping up and down. That is what Radharani looks like in dance. It's captivating, and it makes us feel very small too, especially compared to someone who's 7 feet tall. This is something that we really want to achieve. That love that Radharani has. Now, I want to add another quote. Does anyone know where these deities are from, or whose deities these are? Louder. Sripad Ayendra Prabhu. This is Nitai Sachi Sutta. So, Sripad Ayendra Prabhu, for those of you who don't know who he is, he was the orchestrator and organizer of the 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan, chanting the Mahamantra kirtan non-stop, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, no stop, no breaks, constant rotation of devotees singing so that the holy name is always emanating from Vrindavan. He was very much a devotee of Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, and he was also very devoted to the service of Srimati Radharani, and he gives this beautiful quote, which is the embodiment of the Brajavasis, those who are the residents of Vrindavan. In the land of Vraja, we chant Radhe Radhe because we know that Radharani is our everything and our own. The Brajavasis are thinking no other way. Krishna, we can take him or leave him. Why do we care for Krishna? Ask the gopis of Vrindavan. They don't want to make any more friendships with that blackened boy. We remain ever ingratiated and ever allegiant to the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. Radharani is the light of our life. That's what pure devotion looks like. Dedication. To the fact where you're not even paying attention to the Supreme Lord. Because remember, it is impossible for us, as what we are considered marginal potency of the Lord. We are not going to attract Krishna. I mean, I know I can't. I mean, you should just see me in the morning. Bags under my eyes. I am not going to attract Krishna. But if I make a plea to Radharani, let me render service to you. How can I serve your servants so that you can make Krishna happy? That is how you achieve Krishna. Because Radharani is the only source of pleasure for Krishna. Just think about the same way when you try to compliment someone. If I say, "Hi Prabhu, you look very good and healthy today." Say, "Yeah, thank you." Like, nice, I'll take the compliment and I'll move on about my day. But then I can say something different. "Dwight Prabhu, your daughter sang very beautifully earlier today in class." Now I've got his attention because I am glorifying something that is very dear to him. You're basically magnifying the affection. So just same way, like you think like you're holding a magnifying glass to look at something more fine and in detail. Same way, I can look at something and get an idea of it, but if I bring a magnifying glass on it, I can see more detail and much more of what's going on. So that's the same way when we approach Krishna. You approach through Radharani. But you don't just go to Radharani and say, "Please, let me see the big man." No, you serve her, and you serve her by serving her servants. And Sripad Ayendra Prabhu was one of those servants, completely dedicated to chanting the names of Radharani. Remember, roughly how many names of Radharani do we chant a year? 5 million. 5,045,760 round names per year. That's just japa. But then imagine how many times if you're singing kirtan throughout the day, 24 hours, you're essentially talking about tens of millions of names of Radharani daily that he is singing through the entirety of his time in the 24-hour kirtan mantra. Completely dedicated. He is the embodiment of the mood of a Brajvasi, person who resides in Vrindavan. There's another very important devotee of Radharani. Anyone know who? Loud.
Lalita.
Lalita. Very good. Thinking more modern terms though. Modern day. Srila Prabhupada is also arguably the ultimate devotee of Radharani. So this actually goes back to his very childhood. So he was sick, and they wanted to bring him what to get him better? Chicken soup. No. Mahamantroli, my son will not touch any of that. Because Gaur Mohan Das, Srila Prabhupada's father, he wanted his son to be an expert musician, very successful, but most importantly of all, he wanted his son to be a devotee of Radharani. Not Krishna, Radha. Because by serving Radha, then you get Krishna. And he very much did so, residing in Vrindavan, absorbing himself in the mood of a Brajvasi, serving Krishna by pleasing Radha, explaining all of these different literatures so that people in the West could understand what bhakti is, what devotion means. He took the time diligently to prepare all of this, travel west, and deliver Mahaprabhu's movement. And remember, who's Mahaprabhu?
Radha and Krishna.
Radha and Krishna combined. And there are many different fun pastimes that you can talk about with Srila Prabhupada, with Radharani. There's obviously one really famous one where you go, how many people here have been to England? 1, 2. So, any of you go to the Radha Krishna temple in London, you know, Sri Radha Londonishwar. That Radharani is very special because Srila Prabhupada is a very shrewd businessman. So, at the time, they were looking to get Radha Krishna deities for the temple in London. And Srila Prabhupada had contacted this Hindu man had deities, Radha and Krishna. But the Radharani on her pinky had a crack. And generally it's custom if the deities have a crack, they can't be installed on the altar. So there's some ceremonies that you do to place them into the ocean. But Srila Prabhupada, very candid and a very keen negotiator, went in to see the man. They conversed a bit in Hindi. Nice laugh. Srila Prabhupada put on his perfect charm, and he said, okay, let's go see the deities. They lifted the covers covering the deities, and Prabhupada looked at them, turned to one of the disciples, mumbled something. They came in. Srila Prabhupada continued to talk with the Hindu man, and the boys looked at it. You think you can lift it? Yeah, I think I can lift it. Lift, took it, brought it to the van, closed the door, and then as the man said, wait, Swamiji, what are you doing? It's like, yes, don't worry, they'll be well taken care of. And then close the door, they drive on off. Srila Prabhupada performs the installation ceremony, and now you can go and see Sri Radha Londonishwara in the Radha Krishna temple in London. So it's a very special Radharani deity, so Srila Prabhupada. And there's countless others. If you look at Radha Kalachandji, and then the deities in Detroit, the Radharanis are actually swapped. The deity the Radharani deity that was supposed to go to Detroit went to Dallas. And the Radharani deity that went to Dallas was supposed to go to Detroit. And if you look at the deities, you'll notice, whoa, Radharani is a little bit about the same height as Krishna in Detroit. And then if you go into Dallas, wow, Krishna's a lot taller than Radharani. But Krishna wants what he wants. And what does he want? He wants Radha. And he wants Radha in certain forms, in different ways. But there are all these different beautiful manifestations. And it's because of Srila Prabhupada that people of the West can even understand what the mood of a Brajvasi, or what the mood of someone who lives in Vrindavan is. So then we circle back onto the Queen of Vrindavan. Those 25 transcendental qualities that we talked about. And the most important one of all is she is always in control of Krishna. She has many different ways to infatuate him. She is an expert cook. How many of you here know how to cook? Hopefully everybody should be raising your hands. So if not, learn how to cook even the basics. She cooks a different preparation every single time for Krishna. New ways to enamor him. If you think about something as simple as sweet rice, she can come up with a new recipe every single time. Different fruits that are added in, different variants of sugar. I'm using sugar cane juice, powdered, like grounded up sugar, different ways to make the flavors dance a little bit differently. And everything she makes just makes Krishna more and more and more infatuated. The easiest way to someone's heart is through their stomach. Radharani is a master in the kitchen. She has mastered the art of captivating Krishna's stomach. That's why also when you go to the kitchen and you do service in the kitchen, you're serving Radharani as one of her servants because you are assisting her in creating something to give to Krishna. If you're working on the altar, you're cleaning the area, offering all this paraphernalia so that Radha can please Krishna. If you are sweeping the temple room, you are making sure that everything is clean so that people can come to serve Radharani, so that way she can say, Krishna, look, your kids are here. Look, 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 kids are here, pay attention. Hey, kids are here. Everything you do in bhakti, devotion, you're doing so to serve Radharani. Because remember, the only way to get to the Father is to attract the Mother. So I will pause there, and then we'll open the last half hour for any discussion about what we covered, or anything that you may remember, a pastime that really stands out to you from Radharani, or any anecdotes. But we'll open to the floor for any questions that any of you may have. Yes. Yeah, wait for Mike, and I can bring it back to you.
Yeah, just pointing. Among the 26 qualities, there was 25. Sorry. There was one quality which you said transcendental. There was one word attached to it, and we will discuss later.
Yes.
If it's possible.
Well, that was the pastime of Radha. So,
okay.
Thank you actually for writing me that. So,
because I just was in your mind that I want to know about that. Yeah.
So, she is transcendentally cunning. So, how many of you have done landscaping before? That can even be as simple as mowing the lawn. It's basic. So, it's physical labor. It does take some work, especially out here in Florida. You feel it. When I mowed the lawn, even just going back and forth on the mower, I am drenched in sweat just because of how intense it is outside. It's a tough labor to do. So, has any of you ever tried to make a pond before? Yeah, normally you just go to a store, it's like, oh, that's a pretty artesian well, the stones are pre-cut, pre-made, you can just have them delivered, you just have the area dug out, usually you get a big power tool or a power digger, excavator, and you just kind of dig it out with the machine, you lay down the tarp, you surround it with rocks, you get a hose, you turn on the water, you let it fill up. There you go, beautiful pond, look at my lovely lawn. Now, who here has any bangles or any anklets or anything on right now? Anyone? Or yeah. Yeah, or tonight, do you want to stand up and show everybody? It's raise your wrists and show everybody. Okay, does everybody see your wrists?
Yes.
Can you imagine digging out a 2 to 3 acre pond with those? That takes grit and cunning. It's Krishna is offering look, I can do it with my heel. I can call all these waters. I can make the earth literally sink and make a hole for you. Radha says, no. Me and my Sakis are going to do this on our own by hand with these. That also goes to the other, she is very brave, and that brave is her determination. So, that is when we need that cunningness, that pure devotion. And in this case, it's to infatuate Krishna even more. It drives him mad with love. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Mata, Shri Ram Govinda. So that is a pastime of cunning. And for those of you who are interested in when we really celebrate the pastime of Radha Kund, it is Bahulastami, which is in the month of Kartik, which is coming up in about a month or so, a little over a month away. And that's a very special time. And speaking of Kartik, actually, does anyone know what is the bhajan that we sing during Kartik when we're offering our ghee lambs to the Lord? Damodarastikam. You want to sing the last verse for me, bro? Or not sing, but say it. Mike? We offer our humble respects to Sri Radhika, Srimati Radharani. That is the last verse in Damodarastikam. Not the first, not the middle. It's the very last thing, the last thing that you're thinking about when you sing Damodarastikam. You're thinking of Radharani. And if you think about that pastime, Mother Yashoda's trying to bind Krishna with rope. He's been a naughty little boy. He's just trying so hard, but every time she falls what?
2 fingers short.
2 fingers short. Krishna sees this. He's continuing to 2 fingers short, 2 fingers short. Those 2 fingers, how do you capture Krishna? It's Radharani. Mother Yashoda's devotion is brought her to the point where Radharani is saying, Krishna, focus, do your job, pay attention to your mother. That's why we honor Radharani at the very end of the Damodarastikam. She is that last 2 inches. She is how you capture Krishna. Which is how Mother Yashoda bounded her little boy. So, by all means, once Kartik comes, make sure that you're coming every single Sunday so you can recite those prayers and you put your full focus, obviously, on the entire Damodarastikam prayers. But that last verse, when you're offering your respects to Srimati Radharani, that is the most important verse in the Damodarastikam prayers. So, do we have any other questions or comments? Yes, brother.
Yes, so very nice, wonderful class, and this sharing of pastimes. So, as you also very nicely concluded from Krishna to Radharani to Mahaprabhu, then to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada actually wrote in his bhajan, which he wrote himself, when he was coming board of the ship Gurguta, September 13, 1965. What day is it? 15, right? 2 days ago, Prabhupada left in 1965 to come to the United States. And then he wrote this bhajan, Krishna Tava Punya Habe Bhai, E Punya Koli to Jabe Radha Rani Kushi Habe, Ruba Ati Bole Tomatai. So, Bengali. But the translation is, O brothers, the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna will bestow virtue upon you, but he will do this only when Srimati Radharani becomes pleased with you. This I surely declare unto you. So he has already given us the clue, the hint of what should we do, we be doing, or who should we be praying. And as we said, what Buddha said, that in Orlando we are so fortunate that we have the home of Radharani, home of Mahaprabhu. So whatever prayers we can offer to Mahaprabhu goes to Srimati Radharani. Krishna will eventually come to us. But to please Krishna, better please Srimati Radharani by serving.
By serving, and you do so by the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he demonstrated how to experience pure love, pure bhakti. And you do so because you follow the mood of Radharani. That's how you achieve it. If you think about if we remember earlier, I showed the breakdown of the spiritual world and how you have Radha, Krishna, all those different things in Vaikuntha, the spiritual planets. You obviously have many different forms of Krishna, innumerable, and they all are equal, and yet there is still a hierarchy because Radharani is at the peak. You have Vishnu and Lakshmi. Lakshmi is just an expansion of Radharani. Remember, Krishna is God at home, the real person, your real self. Vishnu is God at work, God at the office. Okay, it's time to create this universe, that universe. There's a little quarrel with this demon over here. Take care of that. Sort out his accounts. Time to breathe in and reset the cycle. God at the office, and Lakshmi is there supporting the funds for the office, the business. She is the goddess of wealth, constantly serving her Lord in that same mood as Radharani. But they are this divine couple, the divine male and female, in the office. Radharani is God at home. Gokul Vrindavan, that is home. That's what you want to experience. When you share someone, like you bring them into your life as a friend, as a companion, do you invite them to your cubicle at work? No? Yeah. Here's my computer brought to my company, David's Dell. Same thing. Mahavishnu is lying down. Here's that universe I created. Here's that universe I created. No, you want to go to where home is. Home is where the heart is. Home is where Krishna is. And Krishna is wherever Radharani is. So someone actually asked Srila Prabhupada, Radharani expresses this mood of separation. How can she be separate from Krishna? And he explained that Radha is always with Krishna. In the spiritual world, there's never that actual physical separation of the two. And also, Radha is always in Krishna's heart. And Krishna's mind is always on that of Radharani. In the material world, it's playing that rasa. It's like an actor on the stage. They're just feeling that mood, feeling that separation, only to drive the intensity of that love. But Krishna always remains in Vrindavan, because that's where his life and soul is. That's where Radharani is. So if you even think about when Krishna was at Dwarka, his queens, all his 16,108 queens, they were jealous of a bunch of cowherd girls. Think about it. I am in a palace. Each one of his wives had their own individual palace with maid servants, jewels, food, everything you could ever imagine. The utmost opulent. Supreme, this is God in all of his opulence, and all of his consorts are there with him. They were jealous of the gopis, specifically of Radharani, because they had an affection for Krishna that their minds can't even understand, can't even comprehend. So that's why of all the devotees, it's the gopis who are the topmost and the supreme, and all the gopis work to make sure that Radha is there with Krishna, because she is at the topmost. So, any other questions, comments, or anything you wanted me to scroll back on if you wanted to write down?
I just want to add one thing.
Yes.
Even Lord Krishna said in the Garuda Puran, right? Satyam Satyam Puna Satyam. I don't remember, but I can see the words. Satyam Satyam Puna Satyam. Satyam Eva Puna Puma. Vina Radhiko Prasade Mata Prasadana Vidyate. Without mercy of Radharani, you cannot get my mercy. So Lord Krishna is saying to Narada Puran.
Without mercy. So I'll give a more, a practical example of how you can envision that. So this will be a little, kind of more understandable analogy. Think of it as think of a household. Think of Radharani as she's obviously the head of that household. She has the ferocity and the determination of a Latina mother. And the father is, let's say, to make it even more diminutive, he's just an American-born white father. Whatever the wife says, it happens. Because she has got an intense burning fire of love for him. But whatever she says goes. It doesn't matter. If it's hard, doesn't matter. If Krishna says, I can solve all these things for you. If Radha doesn't say so, nothing happens. The world revolves around her. And it's ironic because her world revolves around Krishna. And that's how they make that perfect cycle. That's how they make that perfect swirling of hot and cold water. So thank you, Mata. Yes?
So if we think of the creator, right? Like, just if my understanding is correct, like, so Krishna created and the world got manifested through Shakti, right? And that Shakti created the Maya, and then you had the 5 elements and the world got created. So is the understanding correct that Radha is actually the Maya personified, and since we are in the realm of Shakti, we can't go to Krishna without going through Radha?
Not quite. So you have the internal potency and the external. So Krishna's energy manifests as the external. That's where you get Maya. Internal potency, it only stays in the spiritual world. So Radharani's stays in the spiritual world. But even in the material world, like, oh wait, Vrindavan's in the material world. Doesn't that mean that Radha is in? That's the beauty of Krishna. When he comes down to manifest himself and his pastimes, he takes a piece of the spiritual world, places it with us. So it's completely spiritual, and Radha is separate from the material energies in all instances.
Okay. And the reason I brought this up was I was reading about Ramakrishna Paramahansa, and it seems like when he was going through his evolution, he had to take permission of goddess Kali, and Kali told him that, now I move aside and you can experience the formless. So, and that was what was going through Shakti to meet the Lord. But I got your point. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. So I have this doubt coming from hearsay or the stories that I've heard as I was growing up. I understand that Radharani is personification of Lakshmi. Vishnu and Lakshmi are united, are one and same Shakti of Krishna, internal potency. I understand all this. The doubt is, the question is, the stories I heard that when Krishna moved to Dwaraka, he fled to Dwaraka, Radharani did not come along with him, and they were separated. They were not united in this physical world at that time. And coming to that, is that really true, or did they really were united? Did they get married or not? That's a little question I always had.
So you said in terms of they're not united in this physical world. That's the key difference. So to someone with regular mundane eyes, it may appear they're separate. They're not together. But if one has come to an understanding of pure love, and basically has come to a understanding of pure Krishna consciousness, they can see that that's only what my material eyes are seeing. I'm not seeing this with spiritual vision, because they're always united in that instance. Radha and Krishna are always present together. But also for the enjoyment of Leela, for that pastime, it's still enacted to feel that mood of separation. Or that when, for example, when he's singing, the Rag Vipralamba, that's when you're singing, you're calling out in a mood of sheer separation, come back, please. Because that's something to experience. Not something out of, I am so sad and desperate, my world is ruined, but in fact, come back because I love you so much. So they're present, always together, but it may not always appear so. In terms of like just I don't want to say material, because they're not material, but physically it may appear that they're separate, but spiritually they are always together. Srila Prabhupada many times says, Radha Krishna, they're never separate. They are always one together. And then, or I guess, follow up. I'd have this, not at our home, but like back home when I was growing up, I had this whole poster. It's a lot bigger than it looks like if you actually go online and look up Vedic cosmology. This is a very beautiful poster that you can get that's produced by BBT. it continues further down. See down here where my feet are, that's more or less where it shows the depiction, the division of the material world. But it will actually break down if you see where the line kind of goes down. Once you leave down into the Vaikuntha planets, then you're going to see the expansion of how Radharani expands into Mahalakshmi, and then so on and so forth. So, Radha, like I said it before, Radha and Krishna, God at home. Vishnu and Lakshmi, God at the office. They are one and the same, but they are also different because they serve different functions. Vishnu and Lakshmi serve to maintain the cosmos creation. So Vishnu is the maintainer. Lakshmi is there to serve Vishnu, to make sure that he can maintain. Radharani's only job and only focus, the only thing she cares about is serving Krishna. So wherever Krishna is, she's serving him. And Krishna always resides in Vrindavan. So that's her only priority. So that's why it may seem she's not, in terms of being grandiose and like cosmic, Radharani's not doing any of that. Because she has better things to think about. The material world, that's a creation because all of us had a desire that once had to do something without Krishna. That doesn't interest Radharani. Radharani's only interest is Krishna, so she stays in the spiritual world. But look at this guy. He's going now to the spiritual world or to the material world. Well, I'm going with him. So she manifests herself in Vrindavan. So. Yes, sir.
The previous comment that shouldn't go unchallenged. We don't go through Kali or Radha or anyone else to get to the formless God. God is not formless. This supreme realization of the absolute truth is the supreme personality of Krishna, the essence transformed form, Krishna, Parama, Krishna, Sachin, and
Thank you, Prabhu. And that's the biggest part. If you also think about Radha and Krishna, Krishna manifested himself as the supreme masculine. He has a form because he wants to enjoy Radharani, who has a form. If I have two lights, I mean, you can kind of point them at each other, and they might combine a little bit, but they're not really going to interact and have any kind of reaction. Versus if you actually have a form, in this case a spiritual form, they can interact, they can have association, they can have pastimes, they can have leelas. So that's why it's so important that we understand that we worship the manifested forms of Radha and Krishna together. Any other questions?
One question I'd like to, you said one line, the lines are just want a little bit elaboration on one thing. I mean, I was fortunate to visit Vrindavan twice. You said a piece of Vrindavan came from the spiritual world to our planet Earth.
Well,
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
in terms of peace, not necessarily like a piece, like here's a piece, but in Vrindavan is the spiritual world. So when you go, you'll see all the mundane things that, because of material vision, we'll see, oh, there's the trash that's someone threw on the street, there's a monkey that's throwing poop at someone and now it took all of my money. That's just looking at Vrindavan with a material mindset. But there's also spiritual vision, seeing the Dham as this is where Krishna and Radha perform their divine pastimes. Anywhere where Krishna is, that's the spiritual world. It's untainted. But because of, oh no, my condition, I am so fallen, here I am looking at all the material things. But Vrindavan is purely spiritual. But your mindset has to be in the correct place to understand its potency. Same thing when you go to Mayapur. Yes, you can see the Ganga flowing and there might be some trash on the side. Obviously, please pick it up. Be a good, courteous caretaker of Mahaganga. But at the same time, I think this is where Mahaprabhu performed his Leela. This is where he danced and chanted the holy names. Having everything with that spiritual mindset and that reverence. So, not necessarily, let's say, a physical piece. Here it is. It is the one and the same. Vrindavan is the Dham because Krishna was there. Same thing with Mayapur is the Dham because Mahaprabhu was there. Everything else, that is just our material vision that is not seeing clearly.
Almost everybody says Radhe Radhe.
There it says Radhe Radhe. We're going to go back.
Riksha wala everywhere. Yeah.
You just look because, like I said, the quote at the end of what to do with Krishna. He's just asked the gopis. He's gonna pull pranks on them. He's gonna mess around with them. Then he's gonna go off and play with his cowherd boyfriends. We want to serve Radha. Because by serving Radha, we make Krishna happy. So, and then like I go back to that. The closest thing that you'll get to actual love in the material world is love for the mother. Because that bond between the mother and child is unbreakable. It's strong. Partners, unfortunately, sometimes come and go. Fathers sometimes, it depends. Their love can be tough in different forms. Same thing with siblings. Sibling love is very interesting. But the love between a mother and a child, that's the closest you're going to get to pure love. And then if you think about love for the Supreme Mother, for Radharani, that is the purest love of all. Not even love for Krishna. Because remember, Krishna only loves Radha.
Also, Prabhuji, the Mahamantra in this chart, I was fortunate to have that chart at home.
Yes.
The Mahamantra is also coming down. Just like
It's an easy way. And then actually, that's a good point. Let's do a quick pop quiz. So see what you remember from those numbers. A little bit of mathematics. So, don't worry, we're not going to do any of that. But, who remembers? How many names of Radha are there in one Mahamantra? 8. Good. Okay. How many names of Radha are there in one round? So 108 mantras.
864.
864, good. Okay. How many names of Radha are you chanting in 16 rounds of japa?
13,000.
13,000? 13,824. And then who remembers how many names of Radha are you chanting in a year if you chant 16 rounds every day, 365 days a year?
5 million.
Okay, I heard 5 million, then the crowd will 5,045,760 names chanted per year. That is just japa. That's excluding the Mahamantra that you sing during Kirtan, or the different Vaishnava bhajans that you sing. Or just going around. You go to Vrindavan, Radhe Radhe. They don't say Hare Krishna, they don't say Hare Bol. Radhe Radhe. Remember, we don't want anything to do with that blackish boy. He's just going to cause trouble for everyone. We want to serve the queen of Vrindavan. Radhe Radhe. So we chant her name every single day. Twice the amount we do Krishna, twice the amount we do Ram. What's the mood that we chant? The mood? I know what the meaning. What is the mood? The mood. Like a baby is crying. So, like a baby crying out. So that's a really intense emotion. How many of you remember your childhood when you were crying for mom? Tonight, do you still remember crying? Do you still cry for mom? Yeah? See, so she's already got the mood down. Everyone else in this room, we've got work to do. But it's that type of mood. And then when you chant the Mahamantra, and then obviously you're enunciating each word, Hare, you really focus on that one word. Even if you're chanting at a faster pace, you still want to make sure you elaborate Hare the most. Because you're invoking that internal potency of the Lord. You're invoking Srimati Radharani. Krishna will not listen to you if you're going Hare, 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 Hare. He's not going to listen to you at all. You may as well throw that round out the door if you don't pronounce Hare with that love and devotion and sincerity. If you do that, then Krishna's like, okay, Radharani, what is it? This upstart in a yellow kurta in the material world is trying to talk to you. But then, when we talk, and when we chant and have a conversation with Krishna, what do we chant even before each Mahamantra? Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta. We invoke Shri Krishna Chaitanya. We invoke Krishna in the mood of Radharani. Because remember, you cannot even serve Radharani directly. You serve the servants of the servant. You serve in that mood. So, That's why in Kali Yuga we worship Mahaprabhu and we perform the Yuga Dharma, which is our Harinam Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the names, which Mahaprabhu encouraged everybody to do, because that's how you achieve it. And if we're so fortunate enough, maybe, just maybe once in our lifetime, in one Mahamantra, we'll exhibit or feel one of those transcendental loving symptoms. It's like, I have never been able to experience my hair standing on end. I haven't cried, torn, like the most I can always, the closest I've come to experience that symptom is I've sweated. But that's nowhere near. It's because it's such a pure mood. That's something that we constantly try to cultivate. Bhakti is a daily process. Something you're working to achieve throughout your entire lifespan. It's not something that you are instantaneously given. And you have to think just like Srimati Radharani, digging Radhakund. Krishna is literally saying, look, I can take all of these holy waters and put it right here. I can kick the ground and make you a kund. You don't have to do all this. Let me give you all this spiritually surcharged water. Radharani said, no, I'm going to work with my Bengals and my friends, congregationally together. We are going to do this. And it's that determination that really attracts Krishna. So, any last minute questions or comments? Or any favorite, or any qualities that you really admire about Radharani before we get to see their lordships?
So this might be a stupid question, but
No stupid questions, only stupid
you
answers.
said Srimati Radharani's name is so potent. Why did Srila Prabhupada make us chant Mahamantra instead of making us chant Radhe, 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 Radhe?
Wow, well, for one, he goes to the West. Are the Westerners in the mood of a Brajvasi? You have to first get to that standard. Same way when you're, let's say, learning to make a preparation. You don't teach someone here, make this elaborate meal that you are going to serve to the King of England. No, first, okay, let's see if you know how to use salt, like balanced salts, learn all the different spices, learn how to stir, learn how to drain, everything. You learn the basics. And then, of course, even when you're doing higher level things, you always still practice the basics. When you practice any musical instrument, before you go and perform a symphony, you still warm up. You play your basics every single time you play. Same way, we can be going around saying Radhe Radhe, but are we at that level yet? Probably in most cases, no. But Mahaprabhu gave, and by Mahaprabhu's mercy, Srila Prabhupada gave us the Maha Mantra as a way to get to that stage. And then, of course, when you're chanting the Maha Mantra, you're chanting Radhe Radhe, just in a different form. And it's the easiest form. Because understanding the mood of the Brajvasis, it takes a lifetime of work. And it's difficult to achieve, but it is possible. But if you chant the Maha Mantra daily, you can achieve it.
Yeah, in the regards to the mood of Vrindavan, where everything is Radhe Radhe, even you take a right in a rickshaw, Radhe Radhe is right, Radhe Radhe left. But Prabhupada and the organizers of our movement told us that what we presented today, Radharani is never alone. Always Krishna is there. So we don't just say Radhe Radhe, we say Radhe. That's it. You all know it, yeah. So always say Radhe Sham. Our way, our Acharyas Prabhupada told us to say Radhe Sham. We're not offending Radharani by saying Radhe Radhe. Vrindavan, they are Brajavasis, like explain nicely. Our movement is not a Brajavasi movement, but a movement of teachings and understandings. So Prabhupada taught us this way. We're not doing anything wrong, but you say Radhe Sham. Radhe Sham Prabhu, like you say Sitaram, like this, Radhe Sham. So Radhe Sham is good. That's how we are doing in our organization.
And then at the end of the kirtan, like we did earlier, you say Jai Jai Shri Radhe Sham. You let all those, everything go out, all the anarthas, everything. You're calling out to Radha. Then at the end, it's like, okay, Krishna, fine. Dad comes to deal with it, but it's all because of Mom. Mom is supreme.
We will be having our Gaura Arati. Right now we will stand up. After that we have the Shinga prayers. Then we will all sit down again for that, and then we will begin our